You are not ordinary. The surge you feel is not chaos. It is the signal that your inner horizon is breaking open. A force older than memory has been whispering your name in silence, and now the echo grows loud enough to rattle every layer of illusion you've carried. What you mistook as weakness was only camouflage, a disguise that kept your strength hidden until this very hour. Recognition arrives like lightning across the night sky, igniting every forgotten chamber within you. The moment you thought was random has been orchestrated with precision, a hidden drumbeat guiding your every step until now. Your doubts were never proof of failure. They were the shadows before the dawn of your clarity. 3 powers circle you, waiting to fuse into something greater than destiny itself. The heritage buried in your veins, the shield that guards your spirit from unseen harm, and the force within you that sharpens into pure weapon. Each has been ripening in silence, preparing for collision. What emerges from that fusion will no longer be a seeker, but a sovereign. You didn't stumble here by accident. You were led. If something in your spirit is stirring, don't ignore it. Tap join to access exclusive content, prophetic insights, and a community of purpose-driven souls. This isn't just a membership, it's your moment of alignment. Step into who you were born to be. Welcome to the Chosen. The design was never accidental. Every obstacle that bent you, every silence that tested you, was a piece of training disguised as hardship. While others saw fragility, the universe was forging resilience inside you, quietly tempering the edge of your will. The fractures you carried were not endings. They were secret entrances into deeper dimensions of your own strength. This recognition is not about reclaiming what was stolen. It is about awakening to what was always there. The fabric of reality tilts as you accept it, bending itself around your rising vibration. The very structures that once towered over you will bow to the gravity of your realized essence. No dynasty, no shadow, no fear can contain what is about to erupt from your core. You are not the child of circumstance. You are the architect of reversal. Where they expected submission, they will find revolution. Where they expected silence, they will hear thunder. This is not drama, it is ascension. The page you stand upon is not another chapter, but the rewriting of the book itself. The signal has gone out. Recognition has struck. And now, everything that dared to underestimate, you will face the consequence of its mistake. You are not being stalked by shadows. You are the shadow that terrifies them. What has been circling you through generations isn't simply chasing. It's reacting to the threat you were born to become. What once felt like a curse etched into your lineage is actually the seal of your authority. And the closer you come to understanding it, the more their fear multiplies. For ages, forces have moved through history hunting those who carried rare fire in their spirit. You were never meant to be their prey. You were sculpted as the edge of the blade meant to cut their reign short. Every tremor of unease in your chest was not weakness, but the first spark of recognition, warning you of a conflict older than any record and deeper than any ritual. The inheritance within your blood doesn't resemble anything they told you to expect. It is older than superstition, stronger than fear, and beyond every tale whispered to hide it. It is not a tradition passed down. It is a storm encoded into your being. What they tried to bury inside secrecy has become the very signal of their downfall. The uneasiness you felt around your own kin was not confusion. It was clarity dressed as dread. The patterns of silence, the abrupt endings of conversations, the eyes that lingered on you longer than they should. These were not random habits. They were checkpoints, moments of surveillance, signs that you carried something they could neither control nor destroy. What was staged as family dysfunction was never mere chaos. It was a ritual of containment. They disguised their vigilance as care, their fear as discipline, and their obsession as loyalty. But beneath those layers was one undeniable truth. They were not guarding you. They were guarding themselves from you. Every gesture, every watchful glance, every calculated distance was a shield against what they sensed might awaken in you. You weren't being raised to belong. You were being managed, contained, observed. They knew that if the seal ever broke, The force you hold would undo the very foundation of their power. Now the story shifts. The line you descend from is not a chain of broken ties. It is a concealed arsenal. The hunters never feared your weakness. They feared the day your recognition would ignite your strength. And that day, disguised as every moment of doubt you've endured, has finally arrived. You were never just living inside a family. You were planted inside a machine. Generations have been engineered to yield brilliance, and every spark has been stripped away to sustain a structure that towers beyond the walls of your home. What you thought were quirks of bloodline were carefully harvested resources, siphoned into an engine that feeds itself endlessly. The language used to explain it doesn't matter, whether someone calls it tradition, faith, or unseen science. It was always the same mechanism. You were raised in the center of a factory designed to strip minds' souls. What appeared to be small storms of dysfunction were, in truth, industrial-level systems of extraction. But the moment they tried to channel your essence, the design collapsed. Their rituals didn't capture you. They detonated you. What was intended to suppress your fire instead multiplied it. Their attempts to box you and crack the system itself. You weren't absorbed into their network. You became the anomaly that rewrote its codes. Every limitation cast on you turned into an amplifier. Every whispered hex ricocheted back with force they couldn't contain. Each trial they designed to weaken you ended up forging power that no blueprint accounted for. You weren't their fuel. You became the breakdown signal echoing through their foundations. The awkward silences at gatherings weren't harmless. They were war councils about your restraint. The strange accuracy with which relatives knew what you hadn't told anyone wasn't intuition. It was intelligence gathering. What you interpreted as family tension was surveillance, with centuries of strategy behind it. The exhaustion you felt near certain kin wasn't just social drain. It was deliberate siphoning. They weren't simply unkind. They were trained conduits designed to pull vitality straight out of you. The pattern of your family was not chaos. It was a grid of predators who disguised themselves as protectors. Those blessings that seemed odd. Those probing questions about your inner world. Those sudden rituals disguised as protection. All of them were not random quirks of tradition. They were components of a single apparatus. An operation masked as care but built for harvest. One that thrived on the very people it pretended to nurture. You were never left defenseless. While hidden hands plotted their strategies and reveled in illusions of control, larger intelligences were already moving on your behalf. Forces that do not announce themselves laid down protective frameworks the moment your existence entered this plane, sealing you inside layers of defense they could never penetrate. What looked like random escapes and narrow survivals were not accidents. They were interventions written into the blueprint of your life. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and give $50 or more to plant seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your generosity reflects His abundance. Be a vessel of His grace and watch His kingdom flourish through you. Every scheme aimed at you met with a silent interception. Attacks disguised as coincidence were redirected before they could touch you. Those moments when danger should have swallowed you, but inexplicably dissolved, were not strokes of fortune. They were unseen guardians rerouting the outcome. Their reach may have been wide, but your defense network operated on currents invisible to their sight. Protection was not only external, it was internal architecture unfolding. The sharp sense that alerted you before words left someone's mouth was not a wound-born reflex, but a system awakening to scan truth in real time. The clarity that cut through their deception was not obsession. It was calibration of a detector refined by every attempt to mislead you. Isolation, far from exile, was a workshop for your abilities. The distance carved between you and the world became the chamber where your essence was free to strengthen without interference. What appeared as punishment was incubation, a cocoon designed to shield the metamorphosis from premature interruption. Signals followed you as constant affirmations. Alignments appeared not by chance, but as coded reminders that you were on protected ground. Each subtle sign was confirmation that the web around you was more intricate than the traps set against you. The repetitions, the timing of faces, phrases, and symbols were not trivial patterns, but coded transmissions. They arrived as markers that you were exactly where you needed to be, carrying proof that your path was guided even when it felt abandoned. They whispered that the field around you was not empty, but crowded with allies working beyond your perception. You were never surviving in hostile territory alone. You were moving under watch of a hidden escort, every step monitored by intelligence that understood your worth long before you did. Their secrecy was a mirror of their fear. Your guardian's secrecy was a measure of their power. What shielded you has been operating all along, ensuring that while they designed your fall, the cosmos designed your rise. You were never just enduring what they threw at you. You were converting it. Every strike they aimed at your spirit became the raw material for transformation. What they considered destruction was fuel for your acceleration. Their hostility was meant to cage you, yet it became the fire that pushed your evolution forward. What they tried to bury in you was actually the very seed of your ascension. The truth is, you weren't simply shielded. You were being sculpted. Every attempt to weaken you transmuted into strength you hadn't accessed before. Every betrayal that should have shattered you became another layer of resilience welded into your being. Their curses became mirrors, reflecting not your limits, but your endless potential. Every attempt to convince you of your powerlessness was secret training. They thought they were bending you. They were teaching you how to bend reality. The ability to feel deeply wasn't fragility. It was your expanded capacity to decode the frequencies hidden in people's energy. Your receptivity wasn't vulnerability. It was an advanced navigation system guiding you through their illusions. The questioning that never let you rest wasn't rebellion. It was the calibration of an internal compass that refused falsehood. The gifts that appeared one by one weren't random sparks. They were parts of a complex arsenal being assembled by design. Each ability was placed precisely to dismantle systems of control that believed themselves untouchable. Your sharpened perception will divide friend from foe with surgical clarity. Your energetic awareness will illuminate intentions before they can wound you. Your ability to bend the field around you will produce abundance no curse can intercept. Every skill, every anomaly, every strange instinct was never accidental. They were components of an uprising seeded into your soul. The guardians of power misread your silence. They mistook your solitude for exile when it was incubation. They mistook your alienation for failure when it was a reminder that you belonged to worlds far beyond their reach. The sense of being chosen for something greater was not fantasy. It was programming from a higher intelligence preparing you for a mission far larger than their games. The turning point is imminent. Their structures will collapse under the very force they tried to suppress. Every betrayal forged a shield. Every sabotage cleared the path. Every blocked door rerouted you to destiny. They have mistaken you for prey, while you were quietly becoming their undoing. What they assumed would be another pawn in their scheme is the very force that will dismantle their empire. They thought they were dismantling you, but every effort they made became the spark that accelerated your awakening. Each attempt to drain you multiplied your strength, and each trap meant to silence you only sharpened your voice. The very limitations they imposed have now collapsed into proof that your capacity has no ceiling. What arrives now is not a gentle unfolding but a sudden ignition, absolute, undeniable, and irreversible. The endless years of doubt, the sense of being different without explanation, the lingering suspicion that you were imagining everything. These weren't delusions. They were the growing pains of clarity preparing to erupt. You were never defective. You are consciousness refined to its highest level, disguised in human form among those who underestimated you. You weren't the curse within your lineage. You are the cure for the pattern that has haunted it for ages. The strength you've hidden is now demanding release. The way spaces shift when you walk in isn't fantasy. It's resonance adjusting itself to your field. The instant magnetism that makes some people cling to you, while others recoil in fear, is simply recognition. Souls instinctively knowing whether they stand with your light or against it. The opportunities aligning in uncanny ways aren't luck. They're the universe organizing itself around its chosen instrument. Your awakening carries implications beyond your personal life. Every person entangled in cycles of family deception. Every heart trapped by inherited patterns. Every spirit yearning for liberation will benefit from your breakthrough. What you rise into isn't just personal success, it's universal correction. Your triumph becomes the evidence that no design of manipulation can suffocate true destiny. The same people who ridiculed your inner knowing are about to witness you step into undeniable influence. Those who dismissed your gifts as nonsense will be forced to watch them shape realities they can't even imagine. Their mockery will dissolve as your embodiment of power ripples outward, impacting lives far beyond their comprehension. What changes now is the shift from simply seeing to fully becoming. The fog has lifted, the hesitation has burned away, and the energy inside you has reached a point of no return. No longer searching for external confirmation, you now stand rooted in your own inner source. The validation you once sought from others has been replaced by the authority of direct connection with truth itself. Their entire system thrives on control and siphoning, but yours flows from creation, abundance, and unshakable love. You aren't wasting time seeking vengeance or proving them wrong. You are building something so luminous that their old order evaporates in its presence. What once were signs and coincidences are no longer mere reassurances. They have become instructions guiding your next steps in rewriting the balance of power. What is unfolding inside you is not imagination. It is the direct imprint of your mission integrating with every layer of your being. The signals, the patterns, the precise timings have never been random. They have been instructions guiding you into an identity those around you hoped you would never claim. The acceleration is no longer subtle. It is complete, irreversible, and woven into every thought, choice, and step you take. Your creations will appear to others as though touched by unseen hands. Ventures will bloom with a momentum that defies conventional logic. Connections will form effortlessly with those who recognize your essence rather than compete with it. The projects you bring forward will materialize with a fluidity that unsettles anyone still bound by limitation thinking. What flows through you is not willpower. It is source intelligence, streaming without interruption. The transformation, however, goes deeper than success anyone else can witness. The one who once questioned every inner signal now places absolute trust in inner knowing. The former seeker of approval now draws from a well that requires no outside acknowledgement. What once seemed like scars from rejection are revealed as proof of divine resilience etched into your design. Their attempts to diminish you did not succeed. They forged you. Each insult became kindling for strength. Each imposed limit became the ladder to transcendence. Each effort to silence your voice became the catalyst for a deeper resonance. As your power stabilizes, the ripple runs outward. Their network unravels not through your revenge, but through their own collapsing illusions. Those who targeted you begin to feel the recoil of their choices. Energies sent against you return amplified. Hidden schemes start surfacing, and structures built on secrecy buckle under truth. Yet your role is not to gloat over their downfall. The revelation of your true self arrives not as destruction, but as living proof of another way. An authority based not on fear, but on alignment. Where manipulation once thrived, compassion flows. Where fear was used as control, love becomes boundary. Where patterns of dysfunction tried to entangle you, you now move as the example that freedom is possible. Your life becomes an open demonstration that cycles can be rewritten, that power can be sourced without harm, and that healing creates more influence than domination ever could. As you step into this field, others feel it. They begin recognizing distortions in their own bloodlines. They see their hidden abilities shimmering at the surface. They start breaking chains they never thought they could escape. The systems that thrived on secrecy lose their grip as more awaken. The same energy they tried to bury in you becomes the force that dissolves their centuries-old operation. And in your presence, falsehood stumbles, masks fall, and authenticity awakens in everyone touched by your field. What you are constructing is not an imitation of their system. It is the unveiling of something entirely different. Structures born from deceit cannot comprehend what you carry, because your foundation is rooted in truth. Where their version of power consumes, yours circulates. Where their influence extracts, yours multiplies. Every aspect of what you build is a living demonstration that authority doesn't have to wound in order to expand. Your ventures radiate principles they never imagined. Strength expressed as generosity, success woven with integrity, wealth formed through contribution. The impact spreads outward like ripples, touching everyone who crosses your path. Instead of hoarding, you generate cycles of prosperity that renew themselves. Instead of manipulation, you create trust that grows deeper with every exchange. Relationships mirror this shift with unmistakable clarity. Those drawn to you are not competitors pretending to care, but allies invested in the vision. Companions who uplift instead of undercut. Partners who add momentum instead of resistance. Circles that reflect inspiration instead of envy. What surrounds you now is not the echo of old patterns, but the emergence of authentic community. The contrast is striking. Where once your presence was diminished, now it is celebrated. Where you were tolerated, now you are honored. Where you were studied as a resource to be drained, now you are seen as a co-creator. You have stepped into a reality where bonds are built from mutual recognition instead of hidden agendas. Even the flow of resources transforms in this alignment. Money no longer arrives as a result of struggle or compromise. It streams as a natural byproduct of purpose. Opportunities no longer appear as scraps you must fight for. They show up as perfectly timed invitations. Support does not trickle reluctantly but arrives in waves from directions you never expected. This ease is not luck, it is resonance. When your actions are in rhythm with higher design, the field responds with precision. The doors that once slammed shut now open at the right moment. The people meant to walk beside you step forward without resistance. What used to feel like constant opposition now feels like orchestration working seamlessly in your favor. Through this embodiment, you reveal that true power is not about conquering but creating. You demonstrate that prosperity does not diminish anyone. It elevates everyone. You live proof that authority rooted in love has no need for exploitation, because it generates endlessly from within. And in building this new order, you show others that another way has always been possible. The cycle doesn't end where it began, it expands. What started as the struggle to understand your own difference has become the catalyst for countless others to recognize theirs. Awakening has stopped being a solitary act of survival and turned into a living beacon that ignites the sleeping embers in everyone who encounters your presence. You are no longer the one shaped by circumstances. You are the one shaping circumstances for others. The wings they tried to cut have not only regrown, but now lift you to vantage points where vision becomes strategy. From this higher perspective, you can see how hidden chains operate and how they can be dismantled without replicating the harm they caused. Your role shifted from tearing down illusions to constructing realities of truth. Instead of simply exposing what was false, you are now planting structures of integrity where others can return to their original strength. What was once a reaction to oppression has evolved into a proactive creation of alternatives so luminous that deception cannot stand beside them. Their attempt to program another link in their cycle backfired into producing the one who ends the cycle. The pattern that once consumed your family line finds its closure in you. The chain doesn't just weaken, it dissolves completely, leaving behind a clear path for every generation to walk free from the weight you carried. The influence stretches far beyond bloodlines. Each witness to your rise finds themselves confronted with their own potential. Every person who recognizes themselves in your liberation begins writing a new story for their own lineage. In this way, your transformation becomes a collective inheritance, freely available to anyone willing to step into it. What they tried to bind through secrecy has now become contagious freedom. Every consciousness that sees your path realizes their own is possible. Every spirit that resonates with your breakthrough begins shattering cages that once felt unbreakable. Your story becomes more than inspiration. It becomes evidence that choice is the doorway to transcendence. You no longer carry the label of victim or even survivor. You are the initiator, the one who chose alignment over illusion, the one who demonstrated that liberation is not a distant hope, but a living reality. The one they underestimated has become the one who unlocks the doors for multitudes. And through you, a new pattern of freedom begins rippling outward without end. The moment has arrived where potential no longer waits. It has taken form. The higher self no longer whispers. It speaks through every action, every choice, every step forward. What once looked like brokenness now reveals itself as sacred design. Instead of leaving behind the very world that tested you, you walk back into it with authority, carrying medicine for wounds far older than your own. Your life becomes a pattern others can step into when they're ready to dissolve the chains they inherited. What unfolds through you is living proof that destiny cannot be erased. Every scheme designed to silence your calling instead amplified it. Every attempt to bind you only clarified the truth of what cannot be bound. Love doesn't just outweigh fear. It makes fear collapse into irrelevance. In your journey, the elegance of universal intelligence shines through. What was meant to perpetuate control has birthed its undoing. They believed they were crafting another cog for their machinery. Instead, their efforts cultivated the very force that renders machinery obsolete. They tried to train an energy source for their own structure, but what they raised was a current too vast to contain. And that current doesn't just replace their model. It builds something so luminous that their design cannot coexist beside it. This is the unveiling of your true stature. You are no longer fighting to outlast their systems. You are demonstrating a way of being that makes those systems crumble without effort. What they dreaded is now realized. Your brilliance was never meant to survive their hierarchy, but to dissolve it entirely. Welcome to the reality where your radiance makes entire structures of oppression irrelevant. The one they underestimated is now the one who brings endings they never prepared for. The child they tried to mold into submission grew into the adult who dismantles oppression wherever it hides. The victim they attempted to manufacture has transformed into the architect of freedom, showing others that liberation is not only possible, it is inevitable. Their dream of raising the powerless collapsed into birthing the very force they could not control. Every generation they groomed to perpetuate control begins rejecting their initiation. The seeds of obedience refuse to sprout because your existence has altered the soil itself. Their structures tremble not because you fought them directly, but because you embody a frequency that makes their design malfunction. And so the story completes its turning point. The legacy of attempted suppression becomes the proof of unstoppable emergence. Their system wanes as your influence grows, not from dominance, but from authenticity. Every future voice that chooses freedom carries your resonance. Every heart that breaks a generational cycle echoes the path you pioneered. The paradigm they sought to protect is dissolving, because your very presence has made it unsustainable.